Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to have Mr. Ferrari here. So I'd like to call the Schenectady City Council Committee meeting for Monday, June 7th, 2021 to order. And we'll go straight into finance. Mr. Palomini.
I'd like to call order the Finance Committee. The first item on the agenda is the presentation of the audit results by Cusack and Company. And I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Tafalowski and Mr. Ferrari. Mr. Ferrari, you are muted. No one can hear you.
Sorry about that. And
Perfect.
usually I'm always yelling, so nobody ever thinks I'm muted. So, the city is required every year to have a financial audit independently. And this year, the city engaged with the services of their independent auditor, which is Cusack and Company. And tonight we have John Taflasky, who's a partner and also the lead on the audit for the city of Schenectady, who will try to explain the audit and the city's financial statements, as well as the single audit that he has completed for the city of Schenectady. John, you want to take over from there?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tony. And thank you to everybody for having me here tonight. What I was going to do is a quick topside review of the audit process in general and the financial statements that you received in draft before the meeting. Our responsibility on the audit is to audit the basic financial statements in federal programs to assure that there's no material misstatements needed for them to be in compliance with generally accepted accounting standards, which is considered GAAP. We complete the audit under generally accepted government auditing standards, which is also known as GAGAS. This requires that we test your internal controls to assess your risk and also design audit programs based on that assessment. We also perform procedures to ensure that the cities comply with their laws and regulations, including those governing your major federal programs. Our audit work spans the better part of 3 weeks. We have 2 CPAs and 2 staff accountants on our audit team. During December, what we do is called our preliminary internal audit control testing. What we do is we test your major internal control systems along with risk assessment, and we do preliminary variance analysis. Each year, what we do is we provide a year-end letter request to Tony and his team. They're very good with providing all the information to us in a timely manner. They're very good with all of our requests during the audit, and they do a really great job in gathering all the documentation for us. Your senior accountant, Liz Nelson, she does a really great job in helping us prepare the financial statements. She prepares the MD&A, basic financial statements, the notes, and the schedule of federal expenditures. What I was going to do is a quick topside review of the financial statements in general, and if anybody has any questions, just please feel free to let me know. Pages 1 through 8 are going to be your management's discussion and analysis. This is a required but unaudited section of the financial statements, which summarizes the operating results and other financial highlights. If you're unfamiliar with the financial statements, this is really an excellent read. Pages 9 through 11, this is your independent auditor's report where we issue our opinion on the financial statements. I'm pleased to say that we've once again issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. This is the highest level of assurance that we can give you on the statements, considered a clean report, no reportable issues, and no findings. Pages 12 through 14, these are your governmental fund balance sheets and your statements of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Your overall operating results for the year, the general fund had a deficiency of approximately $3.7 million. Water fund had a surplus of $890,000. Sewer fund had a deficiency of $168,000. Recreation fund surplus of $149,000. Special grants and other revenue funds deficiency of $155,000. And your capital projects had an overall deficiency of $17.6 million, which was primarily due to the bonding received in previous years, and now we're expending this money on the capital projects in the current year. Your contributing factors to the overall general fund deficiency were the reduction in the casino revenue due to the COVID shutdowns, approximately $1.6 million. Prior year tax lien collection fell short of budget, approximately $924,000. Interest and penalties fell short of budget, approximately $773,000. This was due to the fact that these were waived for a significant portion of the year due to COVID. The New York State AIM funds were withheld by the state, the last 20%, which was approximately $560,000. And the sale of city properties fell short of budget, approximately $368,000. We feel overall that management does a really good job maintaining their reserves. The fund balance in the general fund for the year ended 2020 was $10.7 million, with $2.7 million of restricted funds. The details of your restricted and assigned fund balance, those are on pages 52 through 53 of the notes. Your short-term band borrowings decreased by $510,000 due to standard principal paydowns. New York State EFC borrowing increased by $9.4 million during the year. Your serial bond debt was reduced by $4 million due to standard principal paydowns. Other components of your long-term debt, these were very similar to prior year with the exception of the city's net pension liability due to ERS and PFRS. This has a net pension liability of $37.6 million, large increase over prior year because of the valuation and the time of the year when it was done. We all know at the end of March, the market was in the tank, and that's when they do the valuations as of March 31st. So that increased your overall pension liability considerably over previous year. Also, the total OPEB liability, which is your other post-employment benefits, increased to $332 million. These two liabilities, your net pension liability and also your OPEB liability, these are what we like to call, for lack of a better term, paper liabilities that are put onto your books. These are required by GASB statement number 75 to be under the full accrual in your long-term debt fund. These liabilities are not going to be funded. You're not going to have to pay this money out. This is just an actuarial valuation of these total liabilities going forward. On page 15, you're going to notice a new statement for the custodial fund. This is a new requirement under GASB statement 84. The old trust and agency relationship that local municipalities used to have has kind of been modified and altered because of GASB statement 84. The old traditional liabilities that were in the trust and agency fund are now, most of them have been pushed over to the general fund. You'll notice that the only thing that we have in the custodial fund right now is the property taxes, which were collected for other governments, but not yet remitted to them. Pages 17 through 60 are the notes to your financial statements. I'm not going to go into any significant detail on these, but they detail your significant accounting policies and also your material account balances on the face of the financial statements. Pages 61 through 67, that's your required supplemental financial info. This is your budget to actual reports, ERF and PFRS pension liability schedules, as well as your OPEB detail and related ratios. Pages 68 through 78, this is your federal single audit. This is the section of the financial statements where we audit your federal programs. What we're required to do is every 3 years, we have to rotate what are called your major programs. These are any programs that are over $750,000 in federal expenditures, or those programs which we may deem significantly risky for a number of different factors. We're required to rotate these every 3 years. And your major programs for this year were your Community Development Block Grant and also your CDBG-R program. That was the disaster recovery portion of the CDBG grant. Total federal expenditures for the year were $8.8 million. Although the general fund did see a deficiency in operations this year, we feel that the city does continually maintain improvement. They are always working to tighten up internal controls wherever we make any recommendations. And I feel that overall, your staff and your team there, they do a really great job. We visit a lot of municipalities, a lot of not-for-profit organizations, and you have a really great team. You got a lot of good people in place. They're very helpful to us during the audit. And I wanted to extend my appreciation to the City Council for all the great work that they do and for all the help they provide. One additional item that you are going to notice in your packet is called the post-governance letter. This is considered, it's the old language for a management letter. We had no current comments during the year. We did have one comment in previous year that was on the collection of long-term outstanding receivables. What we did is, as part of our audit each year, what we have to do is revisit these audit comments, go back and see if any progress has been made on these audit comments. And I'm pleased to say that we feel that progress was made to identify some of these issues and then strengthen internal controls around them. COVID, as we know, really threw a wrench into everything for everybody. So a lot of plans were placed on hold, but overall, the city does a really great job. And at this point, what I'd like to do is just open up the presentation to any questions. If anybody has any questions on not only the audit process, but the financial statements in general. I know it's a really lengthy document and there's a lot of information in it, but I'd be pleased to take any questions at this point.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Palmani?
Yes.
We'll go with Ms. Zaluski-Wazunas, then Mr. Mudavaren.
So I'm looking at the receivable collections and there's municipal voucher bills that haven't been collected and they're in excess of a year old. And I realize we're coming out of a pandemic and there could be some of that on there, but what's the recommendation as far as us moving forward and doing some collections on that?
That was our comment from previous years. So I think the city has made really good steps in resolving these issues. I think it's always an ongoing battle because when things happen, the first thing to do is people just stop paying their bills. And we noticed that with COVID, with a lot of our organizations, receivables went way up, payables went way up. People either weren't paying their bills or they weren't getting their money in. So vice versa. But I think that recommendation in previous year was designed to just say that, hey, we've noticed this issue and we noticed that there are some of these longer term outstanding receivables that if you need to get your legal counsel involved, outside collection agencies involved, there's a number of different avenues that you can take to try to get this money in and get it in timely, because the longer it's out there, the harder it is to collect. So that was something that we had noticed during the audit that we just wanted to throw in the management letter to let the city council know, hey, this is out there. And if the finance department needs additional resources to help collect that, then they should be made available to them.
So is it safe to say that there's nothing on here that you would charge off? Are they all collectible?
No, that's not to say that there's nothing we wouldn't charge off, but a lot of our audit focuses on material items that are going to materially change the financial statements or a larger dollar value. Some of the smaller ones, we typically don't look at those, but that was kind of a blanket comment too. They should also be, reviewed and assessed at the finance department level.
I just want to add, Ms. Wazunis, is that, the finance department itself, so we are taking a more aggressive action. We used to look at them at a quarterly basis. Now we're going to be tightening that up and start looking at a monthly basis. And as Mr. Tofleski says, is when we see things, we're going to be writing. We've been writing monthly letters, and we see there's no response, or we can't get any response. We are going to submit that to our legal counsel to have them work on it. So we are changing our ways for improvement.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Ferrari.
All right, Mr. Mudabaran, you're next.
Thank you. Page 26 under summary of significant accounting policies. And the second paragraph, it says that the city does not comply with GASB statement number 34, which required the city to present the government-wide financial statement on a full accrual government-wide basis as well as the full fund basis. It's a two-part question from Mr. Ferrari and Mr. Kalazowski. Why the city is not doing this, and should the city comply with this?
Tony, I can take this question.
Yeah.
John, the reason that the city cannot comply with GASB Statement 34 is because you do not record your long-term asset account group. So the GASB Statement 84 essentially requires municipalities to not only value their equipment, their buildings, their real estate, but also their general infrastructure, roads, bridges, piping, your wastewater treatment plants. So all of that information would have to be valued at a historical cost value or some other reasonable, fair market value, and the cost just significantly outweighs the benefit. We could be GASB Statement 34 compliant, but it would be at a significant cost to the city, and it's not required to be in compliance with GAAP. So what we do is we issue the financial statements on just the fund level, and we also include the long-term debt, so the non-current governmental liabilities account group. But we do not record the non-current governmental asset account group just because of the significant cost that it would take to become compliant with GASB Statement 34.
And the most important reason too.
Last year we discussed this at some point. Is it something that you would recommend that we do?
Personally, I would not recommend it if the city does not feel there's any benefit for it. Unless it's required by some outside agency for you to be compliant with GASB 34, there's no requirement that you have to comply with it. And a lot of municipalities don't for that specific reason. It's a non-current governmental asset account group that they do not want to pay, to have that valuation done because it doesn't provide any additional benefit for the financial statements. I think your major funds are reported in the financial statements, and that really at that fund level provides you all the detail that you need to make informed judgments based on this information as well. So unless you wanted to become GASB 34 compliant for any reason, I don't think there's any reason for it.
And that only helps us become our accounting and our financial statements will be used against private companies, not other municipalities. So there will be recorded depreciation, or profit levels, and we're not being taxed or anything. So for the cost of doing the valuation and then doing it every year, it's just not worth it. And like the most important reason is New York State, it does not require that for municipality to do.
Yeah, and Tony, can I add one more thing as well? John, one thing I wanted to focus on the financial statements is your financial statements. What we did in previous years is we got these as close to GASB 34 compliant as possible in case you ever did decide that, hey, we're going to take that next step and we want to do this. We have the management discussion analysis. We have the non-current governmental liabilities account group. We have the custodial funds in there. We have everything but that long-term asset account group. And it's not economically feasible at this time for the city. It's something that maybe in the future we can do, but especially with COVID and everything, I think it would be difficult to go to the taxpayers and say, hey, we want to spend all of this additional money for something that's not even needed.
Thank you for your detailed explanation.
Are there other questions? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so thank you, Mr. Tafalowski. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And once again, thank you to Mr. Ferrari, Liz, and Derek for yet another excellent audit result. So thank you for all your hard work.
We have a hardworking team here, and they do a really good job. We work, we review, we look at it again, and then we review it one more time. I think that's what helps that our audit works out so well.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Tony.
Just a second. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add one more thing in that, once the audit is complete, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send what's called a management representation letter to Tony, have him sign that, do the formal approval. Once the council formally approves, then what we do is we submit it's called the federal census form. It's called Form SFSAC. We file that with the federal government. That will be the last part of the audit. To fully complete the audit, that's the report of your federal funds. So once that's complete, your audit will be formally submitted and complete.
Thank you. I think Mr. Mudavaren made a motion, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Next is $100,000 grant from the County of Schenectady. Mr. Ferrari.
Yeah, the city of Schenectady has received grant funding from the Schenectady County in the amount of $100,000. The contract between the County of Schenectady and the city is for park improvements to the Orchard Street Park in our Mount Pleasant neighborhood on Crane Street. I just want to thank the county for, as being a Mount Pleasant boy, I want to thank the county for doing this, help the Orchard Street Park so we can complete the project. It's a nice gift. And go ahead, Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, this is the money where the council has approved the improvements to Orchard Street Park, I believe 2 weeks ago. This is, the county had made a commitment to that, so we're just accepting the $100,000 to pay for some of the work that has already been approved by the council.
And plus additional work too, Mayor, that we wanted to get done.
Yes,
correct.
That's correct. Before I ask for questions, just want to let everyone know I'm getting a couple messages that the I guess the television, no, it's not televised, but the feed from the meeting, there's something wrong with it, and there's a frozen screen and the volume is hard to hear. So whoever can work on the technical issues on that, hopefully we can get that fixed. With that, I'll ask if there's any questions.
I do have a
Yes,
question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not sure who's, but was that
I
Ms.
have a
Porterfield?
question.
No.
Yes.
Let's Ms. Porterfield go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to I'm looking at the scope of the work that's included as part of this the information that was provided to us. And Ms. Ferrari did say there was additional work. Now, according to this, our the original grant was $354,000. Well, in 700, $354,735. But my understanding is that we approved the work for about 381,400. Is that correct, Mr. Ferrari?
No, I think the total, with these additions, that's why we needed 100,000 from the county to bring it up to 384. I think originally it was 351. I don't have that information right directly in front of me.
Oh, I'm just looking at the grant.
Yeah. Well, the
Okay,
grant
that
was
was
for 100,000. The state grant that we had previously, we got
354,000 is what the paperwork says in
Yes.
front of me. Right. So yeah, and then there's another 100,000. So with the information here that's given the scope of work, it's coming up to 546,005. So I'm just wondering where the difference in the money will come from, because the grant that was showing that we got and the 100,000 doesn't bring it up to the 546.
Okay, I don't recall that number being 546. Does that include the playground equipment?
So the scope of work that's included in the documentation that was sent, there's 373,708, 9210, and 80,794 for a total of 546,512. So but if you add what was already the grant and that was given before and the 100,000, that only brings us up to 454,735. So there's a difference there.
I think, I'm sorry, this is Kristen. I think the difference is the playground equipment, because the playground equipment was not part of the scope of work with Newcastle, because it's a direct order through the city. And that's what that difference likely is.
That's what the difference will be, is the playground equipment, yeah.
Okay, well,
and that's a total, that's another CDBG grant.
So this scope of work that we're showing here, so you're saying, Kristen, that the 80, let's call it 81, that you're saying the $81,000 is something that we're going to need to still cover, because this doesn't cover it.
No, that we're using CDBG to pay for that.
Okay, and there's still like a $20,000 shortage or something like that. So that's my question, because the numbers weren't working.
Yeah.
So even though this is the scope of work, we're going to need to put additional money from CDBG to cover some of this. Is that my understanding?
Correct. The CDBG should cover the rest of it.
Okay, because I didn't see that anywhere in here, so that's why I was trying to figure out where that money was coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been, it's been a process to figure out, the sources of funds. Now that we have this commitment from the county, we're happy for that, because we can get more parts of the improvements done. But yeah.
Okay, so when will we be hearing about, that, because is that part of the CD? When will we be hearing about needing to approve that particular piece of that?
That's already been approved, I believe, the CDBG portion.
Marion, the smaller amounts are just going to be rolled into some of the prior expenditures from CDBG. There's been the demolition, there's sidewalks, ancillary work that's been part of the overall development of the site. So I don't intend to come back to the council for any of those minor expenditures.
Okay. So this, okay. I just wanted to get clarity on that, because as I said, there was definitely a shortage between the numbers that were provided. Okay.
Mr. Motivaren, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, that was partially my question too, and I was going to ask, but then is there any way that we can get an estimate of what is the overall changes we're talking about in dollars?
Oh, we definitely will. As soon as we get that information, we're going to send it to as we proceed with according to our precinct rules. If we need a change order, we'll bring it to the council. We'll be able to see it.
Are there any other
If- if-
questions?
If I may follow up, so if
Yeah,
there's
go ahead.
anything over 25, if there's anything over 25% in change in scope,
Correct.
that would have to come back to the council for review and approval.
That is true.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Any other questions?
And if you guys have been going up and down crazy, you can see how much that has been improved already by the work that we already started. So let's keep it going. We got to finish this for our kids.
May I have a
I'll
motion?
move this.
Thank you.
So
Second.
move.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. Third is the 2021 budget amendment with Mr. Ferrari.
Hi. Yes, what we're requesting here is our senior payroll audit clerk, Donna, has retired at the end of January. And we were looking to fill this spot with a person, not just a clerk, but somebody who can have some duties of supervision and a background in that software. And we were able to find a person to fit that bill. And because of these more duties of supervision and new programming with our Munis system, we're requesting to change the title from a senior audit clerk to a payroll manager, because he's really going to be running the new payroll system. Because we're right in the beginning and the process of upgrading our Munis payroll system, which is probably going to be a 1 or 2 year development of this. And we would needed a person who is not just a clerk, but somebody who has experience in like software development and stuff like that. And we were able to find a person such as that. And we're looking to change the title, but also the salary. And we're fortunate that the salary is actually a little bit less than what we were paying our audit clerk. So we're just more or less trying to change the description of that title.
Are there any questions?
Yes, I have
Yeah.
just a small question.
Say that again?
Go ahead, Mr.
I just
Mover.
have yeah, Mr. Ferrari, what will be the base salary in 2022 for this position?
Well, the base salary will still be 50,000. If there's any, because it's a management position, there's no steps like a union position. So unless the council approves, a raise, I think in the past we've been doing like 2%, except for 2021. So it'd be like whatever is passed by the council. But the base
Okay,
salary
thank
is
you.
50,000.
Are there other questions?
Yes, I do have a question.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So Mr. Ferrari, is this a current employee who's going to be moving into this position?
It's a new employee.
So it's someone new. Okay, is it
Yeah.
also, is this a civil service position?
All these positions, civil service, this is not a union position. It's going to be a management position. And
Okay, so,
it's going to be tested also. They'll be
That-
tested.
all right, that was my next question. Is there testing
Yeah.
required?
Yeah,
Okay, those were my questions. Thank you.
you're very welcome.
Anything further? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Zaluski wasn't a second by Mr. Motivaran. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Hey.
All
Second.
those in favor? Aye.
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 Adjourn. Thank you.
Call to order public safety. First item is the purchase of new vehicle for the police department. Assistant Chief Mike Seaver.
Good evening, everybody. We made, under our capital funding that was approved by City Council last year, we put out a mini bid to purchase new vehicles for the police department. I sent out all the specs on them, who would win the award and so forth. There's 15 vehicles altogether, and some are marked and some are for detectives. The marked ones are actually first time we're buying a hybrid type of vehicle. So we're kind of looking forward to that because the mileage is supposed to be a lot better, the idling time is less and so forth. Then the other cars for the detective division are actually electric cars. So again, it's kind of a transition for the police department, but the industry is starting to produce some of these cars that we feel are adequate for patrol purposes. So with that, I'll just ask for any questions.
Chief, with this purchase, will this bring you close or full capacity in terms of vehicle?
It will bring it up. We're kind of changing the dynamics, the way we do things in anticipation of saving money down the road. What I mean by that is we're trying to, when we get a new vehicle on the fleet, generally we use it almost 24/7, and we're trying to cut that down by a third, only use it, 12, 16 hours a day, put less miles on it, lasts longer. So we have kind of a whole plan in place, but it will bring our fleet up to where it should be. Last year, as you know, we didn't purchase any vehicles through any capital funds or any other way. So our fleet is in a little bit of a tough spot right now, but this will bring us back to where we feel we need to be at this point.
Perfect.
Mr.
Any
Moody,
questions from my colleagues?
Yeah.
Please proceed.
Yes. Okay, so we're purchasing one vehicle that is going to be completely electric, and that's not going to be run 24/7 then, correct?
Yeah, the electric, actually there's 4 vehicles that are totally electric. And those 4 vehicles will be used by detectives. Now, the detectives do work 16 hours a day and they're on call other times during the day, but no, they will not be, they put a lot less miles on there. For instance, our patrol vehicles put between 25 and 30,000 miles a year on vehicles. The detectives' cars are more along the lines of under 10,000 miles a year. So we feel it'd be efficient enough to use it.
So my other question is, are there charging stations behind the police station?
No, we have them across the street from the police station, as I'm assuming you're aware of.
Yeah, no, I know. I just didn't know if you had any behind the station at all.
No, we are in the process of planning for it. These vehicles unfortunately take months and months to get nowadays. That includes all the vehicles. So we do have some planning. We have had some conversations with John Futo and others to try to manage this for the short term and long term. So we are conscious of it. The idea is for us to have something close to the buildings that we can charge it. So I don't have a definite answer for you right now exactly where they're going to be, but yes, we have had conversations about it.
Yeah, and we're trying to get grants for it too. We're trying to have somebody pay for them besides us.
I like that. That's the way to go.
Yeah, that's why we're waiting.
It's other people's money.
Yep.
Thank you.
Close to the library. We're going to try to plug them in over there. No, just kidding.
Any other questions from my colleagues? So Chief, do we have a timeline with regards to these vehicles coming in?
We do have a kind of a not official one, obviously, until we put the order in, but these Chevy Bolts, for instance, the electric ones, really won't be until almost the end of the year, we're being told, just because if we order them now within the next few weeks, it basically takes 5 to 6 months to receive them. The Ford Interceptors for patrol, they're also 4 to 5 months out. And then everything's about 4 to 5 months out that we're receiving through our contacts right now. But until we give the official order, get an official delivery date, that's what we're anticipating, 5 to 6 months.
And actually, that's a lot better than what they originally told us.
Yeah.
5 to 6 months, yeah.
As everybody probably knows, the car industry, everything's really backed up. If you go to buy a new car or used car, it's tough to get delivered.
Thank you. Ms. Porterfield, you had some?
No, I did not. No, I didn't.
Okay. Any other questions from my colleagues regarding the vehicle purchase? Seeing none, I have a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The next item is traffic signal. Ms. Papalamini.
Yep. Also just wanted to, I'm not sure how much is working for people, but I've been getting reports that the television aspect is not working again. So hopefully the live feed is working. All right, so we've had a number of issues with speeding, people going through stop signs, pedestrian issues. And one of the things I've noticed in some other communities that I thought maybe just a discussion point to see the feasibility of having them in Schenectady are in certain locations that would be important are these stop signs and pedestrian crossing signs where they have LED lights in them and they flash and they really call your attention to the signage. Maybe it would help in certain locations to get people not to go through stop signs and actually stop at the pedestrian ways. There's even some, hopefully you got this in your packet, where the pedestrian way is lit up in the road and calls attention to traffic to slow down and let the pedestrians cross the street. So we've been having an ongoing discussion about the many traffic issues we have in the city, and thought maybe this is something that we could look into and would fit right in with some of the smart cities initiatives.
Mr. Motivary.
Please proceed.
So, Mr. Palmini, I think it's a good idea, but I'm assuming some of these may be solar.
Some are, those seem to be very expensive.
Okay.
The hardwired ones seem to be a little cheaper, but I think you could probably look into a combination of stuff. Certainly solar is the better, sustainability option. But they are both hardwired and solar.
So I think this is a good idea personally, and I think that from our perspective, maybe we could do something to get these into the budget for next year. I'm not sure if the mayor's started the budget process yet, but I think it's a good time to maybe think about that.
We have started the budget process.
I
Everybody
agree.
will be receiving their package tomorrow.
And hopefully we can get this first, make sure it's legal within the New York State confines and regulations. And if so, maybe we can get some of these into the budget for those key locations where we're having so many problems.
Mr. Motivary?
You go ahead, sorry.
No, so I do have a question regarding that. So it was mentioned about key locations. I guess I would like to know a little bit more about how that would be determined and how much we're really thinking about spending. I do see there's a significant amount of information in the packet showing what they look like. Just wondering what we're talking about budgetary and also what we're talking about in terms of locations, if that has been decided.
Nothing has been decided as far as locations. I would imagine we would use the DDAX information as far as where we have the most troubles, and also listen to community members. As far as the budgetary aspect is, there is pricing in for the signs. I would imagine municipalities might get this for a cheaper price, but they seem to be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 per sign. And I see Mr. Coluccio on the line. He could probably speak a little bit to detail as to, I guess the first question is the feasibility of this, and if it's not feasible, what we could potentially do to draw attention to the signs for vehicles.
Mr. Palmini, I have done a little research, and certainly within the FHWA Manual of Uniform Traffic control devices in the federal manual, and there's nothing in the state manual that precludes us as far as I can find. So I believe it is something that's possible. I've done a little research myself, and we were looking at signage in the vicinity of $1,700 to $1,800 each. That's just for one or two. Obviously, if you buy more of them, the dollars are, the cost is going to go down. And these are solar ones that I was looking at, and they run up to 14 days without any sunlight. So and these particular signs can go on our existing posts that we have. So I totally agree with you that, looking at accident history of locations to help decide where they go, if this is something that you want to pursue.
Great, thank you very much.
Certainly.
Any other questions from my colleagues?
All right, so hopefully we can.
What you want to continue the discussion with this, or you want to?
Yeah, I'd like to continue the discussion. Hopefully, we can maybe get some more information on how many signs we might need and locations. Maybe we should start small and see the effectiveness of them, and then try to work this into the capital budget for this coming year.
Also, can you consider me enrolling it out like a pilot project? This year, seeing if we have additional funding through Smart City, and then we look at the impact, of this, and then roll it into exactly what you mentioned, the capital budget. Is that something that can be considered?
Yeah, I don't see
That's a good idea.
Rather than waiting until next year.
Yes, I think that's a really good idea.
Seems like a good idea to me.
This would be something good that we can roll it out, see what the impact is within our community, and then we put money in the capital funding for it. So do you want me to have this back on the agenda in 2 weeks for us to follow up and see where we are, or is that too short?
Yes, please. And if we run into a roadblock, I'll just ask for it to be taken off till the next meeting. But I think we can get something hopefully moving in the right direction in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. All right, any other questions from my colleagues? All right, so we'll have this back on the agenda. The next item is fireworks education. Mr. Palamini.
So Union College recently had quite a nice fireworks display. I will say it was legal, but unfortunately it seemed to be the the starting point for people to shoot off illegal fireworks in the neighborhoods. And we're not the only community dealing with this issue. It seems to be a major problem throughout the country and plaguing many cities in particular. So I started looking into, just exactly what we can do. There's only so much, let's face it, law enforcement gets overwhelmed with the amount of fireworks that are being shot off, and they certainly do their best. But I was starting to think and talking to individuals, particularly about the education component, and started looking into some different cities, what they do. And in your packet, you'll notice that some of these cities are doing lawn signs now, and they're being used for education purposes. So the lawn signs have basically a little message of the illegality of fireworks and just how dangerous they are. For example, the city of Boston has "Don't cause trauma, don't cause stress, don't shoot off fireworks, be a good neighbor." San Jose has a similar type of lawn sign. Long Beach has "Celebrate the 4th safely, do not light fireworks, all fireworks are illegal." So I was thinking, and along with that, they have an education component, whether it's a QR code on the sign that people can use their smartphones to go directly to a website. But there is an education component where we could put that information on the city website. I believe it's Boston has a little pamphlet made up just on a safety guide for fireworks and some of the issues and who to call. So I thought maybe this is something we could look into and see if it's something that we might want to adopt in the city. Lawn signs are relatively inexpensive. There's even coloring pages for kids and activity pages for kids on the legality of fireworks. So it's something that we can do as a city to try to call attention. And what happens is in these cities, the members of the community request a lawn sign and they put them up on their properties and ask for them so that their neighbors are aware, like, we don't want this in our neighborhood. And it's worked somewhat effectively. And I think Boston, it's their first year, but others I think have used it in the past. But just wanted to bring it to the council's attention to see if it's an idea that maybe we could adopt here in Schenectady.
Yeah, if I can ask a question to Leah directly. Mayor McCarthy, with the backup document that was provided by Mr. Palomini here, they're very useful in terms of educational outreach to the community. Is this something that we can ask you, your staff, to kind of put out a PSA out there that we can share with on social media or press release that we can inform the community about the illegal firework and the danger?
Most certainly. We're looking at ways to get that message out where we want people to be compliant. You know, people make poor choices with fireworks. They can be dangerous. They can be capable of inflicting personal injury, and we don't want people to engage in that cavalier activity. We've seen it over the last couple of years where it seems to be escalating, not only in Schenectady, but other communities. So any of these things to get that messaging out to encourage people to enjoy the legal fireworks displays that are set up by different organizations and entities within the Capital District. But I think that's a good idea, Mr. Munaveran, to have some of the social media or get that message out or PSA so that we can most certainly get that together in the next few days.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, because we have seen emails coming in, and I forwarded a few to you and police chief in terms of people asking about what the plan we have in terms of firework. And this leading up to my question too, in terms of the police officer on duty come 4th of July. Chief, is there any plan on having full contingent of officers?
Yes, we actually just met out this morning. We are going to have additional officers on the streets, both for the 3rd of July and 4th of July, because we anticipate the 3rd being a celebration as well. But I'm just looking at this Boston stuff that they put out is pretty interesting. But no, we love to get the word out, and we are stepping up enforcement still.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues?
Mr. Mudavarun?
Please proceed.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I think that it is something that we definitely should address, because as has been stated, people are already starting to shoot off fireworks like on a regular basis, like it's not June, it's like it's July. And things we've tried in the past, we have a limited number of police and people are just doing them all over. So I think any action that we could take to educate people and to let them know that it's not only illegal, it's not safe, that that's something we should do. So I think moving forward in this direction and putting out PSAs on an immediate basis is an excellent way to at least begin to approach this. So certainly support that. Thank you.
Mr.
Mr.
Mudavera?
Palmy, you had something else? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'd also like to see, ask the mayor if we could possibly look into the lawn sign issue and see, I think it falls into a relatively small cost category, and see if individuals in the neighborhoods request them, if they could put it up, because then you have community members saying, we don't want this in our neighborhood, please don't shoot these off. And it might be a useful tool to diminish the amount of fireworks shot off.
Yeah, we can definitely look into that, see how we can put that together.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mudavera? Mr.
Go
Mudavera?
ahead, please.
I
Go ahead,
think,
please.
I think this educational effort is a great idea because it, is proactive at trying to see if we can, cut back on these illegal use of fireworks. I just wanted to ask, Chief Sieber if, would it be okay to use the non-emergency police number, maybe put that onto some of this, either brochure or lawn signs or something like that in terms of people reporting, or is that too much of an overload?
That's probably one of the highest volume call days that we have actually of the year, quite frankly. People do call us, but yeah, there's no harm in that. Obviously, it gives them a mechanism to get a hold of us. The problem that we've seen over recent years is large street gatherings, like a lot of people come out the street and celebrate together. It's not just individuals in the backyard. So, so obviously we're trying to strategize about the best way to approach this. I think this lawn sign thing and what Boston's doing is a great idea. I'm gonna start coloring in some pages after we're done here. But no, it's just a tough night. I've worked it for years myself, and people want to celebrate. They want to feel good. It's this nice hot summer night, but just it's a danger because of especially from a fire department standpoint. There can cause fires, people can get hurt, and every year there's a number of incidents that happen. So whatever we can do to get the word out there to help us, because unfortunately we run like crazy all night long because we're going through all the calls. So, but we do plan on really stepping up enforcement, making arrests where warranted, and seizing whatever we can as far as illegal fireworks.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Palomini, we should have this back on the agenda for the 24th so that we can follow up and see where we are and ramp up the outreach.
Sounds good.
That week and the following week.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so we'll have this back on the agenda, and hopefully we have those PSAs out and we can all share them and, educate our community about the danger. All right, any other question on this item? If not, we'll move to the next item, sale, use of fireworks in New York State. Mr. Palomini.
So along the same initiative, one of the problems that we have with fireworks, particularly in New York State, and they are illegal in New York State, is the advertising of fireworks from states where they are legal to sell, in particular New Hampshire. And I came across a couple, I'm always thinking why the state doesn't do more to try to crack down on this, and especially the Attorney General, particularly with the advertising. And started looking to see what some other states have done. And again, Boston's been dealing with this problem in a similar manner as we have. And they actually were able to successfully get the Massachusetts Attorney General to send a cease and desist order to a fireworks company, Phantom Fireworks in New Hampshire. And, given the extent of the problem that we have, I thought one aspect that we could do is request that the Attorney General do likewise in New York State. And Mr. Colden was good enough to type up a resolution that you have in your packets that I ask for your consideration and adoption.
I think it's a
Any
good idea.
discussion on this item?
I would like to move this forward. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. If there's no other discussion, absolutely, we'll move forward. We'll move this forward. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is discussion police calls to convenience stores and our point system. A few years ago, we had enacted legislation with regards to applying points to convenience stores. And the reason why I have this on the agenda is summer is upon us again. And we know that the amount of call that we're getting towards convenience stores is a problem there. How are we applying the point system? And if we're applying it, where are we with the trouble convenience store in terms of point system? So I want to open this for discussion with Police Chief. I did have a conversation with Mayor McCarthy last week, Thursday, on this. So it's more of us being proactive in terms of not what happened last year. We're going to allow it to happen again with these convenience stores. We want to rein them in and to make them accountable in terms of the nuisance they're causing within the community.
But Mr. President, if I could just make an initial comment, and the chief can maybe do some detailed follow-up. I personally meet with all the store owners when we reissue their certificate of use. Generally, the corporation council's there, the building inspector, representatives from the fire department, representatives from the police department. And my message is standard, that I tell the businesses I want them to be successful. I want them to see the city as a partner, that we want to work with them. We want them to create value within their neighborhoods. But at the same time, they got to play by the rules. And that I don't want the litter, I don't want the drug dealing, I don't want the negative connotations that some of the stores have. And we give them the rules and tell them that we're going to enforce them. And generally, we've seen the overall group of stores are improving. In fact, Chief Siebers generally at every meeting, we used to have them come to City Hall and meet with us. We now go out and stop at the actual store. So we visit it, go in, say hello, walk through the process with them. And I will tell you that a lot of the stores are doing a very good job. Very impressed with the work that they do and the services that they're providing. There's some that are still not what I would call optimal, in that we are following those and look to, again, enforce it, whether it's code violations, whether it's criminal activities, and want things to be safe so that, you know, that they're compliant with recommendations from the fire department and all city services. Now, you turn it over with your permission to Chief Sieber to do some of the follow-up from some of the specifics that the police department does to, again, work with the businesses and then to make sure that they're not engaged in any activities that are deemed to be negative or criminal.
Yes, as a follow-up with the mayor, we big thing for me anyway was I attend a lot of these meetings, and we took it the show on the road. We visit their locations, which is very beneficial from the police department standpoint, because you get to see if the stores obviously up to code and up to stuff and everything else, but the cleanliness, who's hanging out, if it's dirty outside, all those things. But we also exchange information, which I think is as important as anything else. I generally give them my business card and contact information. Last times there's a lieutenant there. If I can't make it, or somebody else, sometimes both of us, and it's just exchange of information. And now it has been going on for, Mayor could tell us, over a year, because we're having our second visits now. And these owners, we walk in and they know us and we know them. So it's created a positive relationship there. As far as the point system itself, we still track points. We still charge them. We send them over to Corporation Council when we have a violation. We have seen a lot of stores in compliance with a lot of all these things. If we have a bigger issue at a store, we'll bring in other resources, whether it be I'll call ATF or I should say SLA for liquor, for other units of government for different violations that we may see, a bootlegging of CDs or something along those lines, and we work in unison with them and track the points. So I think that's it's working to an extent. Obviously, every once in a while, we have certain stores that might not follow it. But also, I think by making those relationships, one-on-one relationships, has really kind of benefited everybody.
Yeah, thanks for those updates. But I just wanna, I have to mention this one name, Quinn's Deli. Almost every day there are police calls to this location. So I would like to know what is being done in terms of those calls and the amount of calls, and we're utilizing our police resource where we can use them otherwise, just to this convenience store on Albany Street there.
When we visit these stores, we bring the history, whether it be medical alarms or police calls for service. Quinn's, obviously, we're very familiar with that. They do have need a little bit more attention, but we bring it to their attention. We are working towards that. I can't get into specifics on just Quinn's itself, but to generalize, we make them aware of what calls we've been there. Lots of times, these calls for service are generated by the store owners themselves, though, for undesirable type of, individuals in the store creating a hard time and so forth. So when you look at just the overall calls for service, you have to kind of drill down a little bit deeper. So I can't get into specifics on one particular market, but we are addressing them. If any council member has anything that they want us to look into, and be, obviously we try to be aggressive as we can be, because we want to make sure that the neighborhoods are being served in the best interest of everybody.
Absolutely, yeah. So my follow-up for this is there any way I can get a list of all the convenience store and the amount of call that was placed from that store or towards that store in the last year into this year, and the point system against that those calls?
Are you talking about one store specifically, like Quinn's, or are you talking about?
No, all the convenience stores, the bodegas.
That'd be a massive list. Like, I can get something together. But you also got
no rush on it. If it takes a month or so, that's fine.
Yes,
I just want to look at overall the convenience store, the amount of call in a year and a half, and how the point system is towards these stores.
I'll start putting something together. We don't have. You're right.
And Mr. President, some of those numbers have been skewed because of COVID. So we saw a lot of activity. We want businesses to bounce back, but do you have any that you specifically want, or do you just want the department to identify those businesses that?
I have a few. I can send the email with the few that I have, but I would like to look at it on a broader scale to see how are we in terms of call different locations versus calls at at these problems, and how can we rein in these stores them in terms of bringing them to compliance. Not closing them, but outreach. I appreciate the outreach that you and the chief and other members are doing to these convenience stores, to to make them align with what they need to do to make our community safer.
Let me just offer this. Let me just we'll start out with maybe our top 10 calls for service calls to the stores or whatever, and go from there. We also got to remember lots of times calls for service are generated by that police officers, because especially we get certain markets that we want to, or certain stores that we want to pay more attention to, so the officer calls off with it. And that's why I kind of meant you got to dig down in these calls, because you might have 50 calls to a location, but 35 of them are generated by the officers just, either checking, stopping by the store and checking in and stuff like that, just giving it more attention. But no, we'll get something together and try to refine it for what you're trying to look for, what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a good start in terms of looking at the top 10, in terms of, the bad out of the, ones, and we can move on from there.
But some of them are not.
All right, thank you.
I just got to say, some of the stores, you're going to see some of the stores in the top 10 that are not what we classify as problem stores, but they have a lot of gas drive-offs and so forth. So, you're seeing crimes, but it's not necessarily bad for the neighborhood. It's bad for their business. But I just want to kind of, like I said, when you read these reports, I think you have to drill down and really kind of look up what's going on.
You mentioned the gas station. Can we leave the gas station ones out, or look at specifically the bodegas and the neighborhoods then?
Yeah, let me get the data together, then we can wash it how we want to wash it. If we want to see certain, we call check the properties. We can eliminate those because that's officer generated. It's not necessarily call for service. The gas drive offs, we can eliminate those. Let me see what we can put together, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much. Any other discussion from my colleagues on this item? All right, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor McCarthy and us. We'll move to the next item. It's a CR for Juneteenth celebration this year, and it's happening June 18th to the 20th in Central Park. And I will just ask for your approval for a CR to be presented to them in Central Park.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. The next item is a discussion with regards to the Central Parkway sidewalk petition. The resident there, along with the organizers, they had submitted petition last year, and it was finally reviewed by Mr. Colden and Mr. Wallen, and verify the homeowners' signature, names and address, and make sure everything is in compliance. So I just want to bring it to the attention of council as aware it is at this point in time. And they are, based on Mr. Walling's email last week, they are short. They are 70%, and they need to be at 75% in compliance for the sidewalk program to kick in there. But looking back at Ardsley and the camp, I wasn't sure if we achieved 75% there. And if we didn't achieve 75% at Ardsley and the camp, can we do the same for Central Parkway? Central Parkway, they are actually at 70%. So I would like to open that to Mr. Wallen and Mr. Colden. And then I will go to my colleague.
Well, it's, Mr. President, the council
Sure.
determines that percentage. So you had set that, I think it's got to be above 50%. And so if you want it to be 75, it can be 75. If you want it 65, that's within the council's prerogative.
No, I fully understand what you're saying, but I mean, if we didn't do it for the other two sidewalk programs, and they are so close in terms of being 70%, and to achieve 75%, they need 3 more signups. Can we look at the others and say, okay, where were the others at that point in time, and just kind of work with these people to get the sidewalk program off the ground?
Well, Mr. Colden can comment on it, but it is separate and distinct. You've adopted those resolutions. You've been petitioned from Central Parkway. If you want to adopt that and move ahead with it at 65%, at 70, at 75%, I believe that's the prerogative of the council, that we would incorporate that in the bidding process and get estimates on the actual work.
Mr. President.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. What the mayor is saying is absolutely correct. There's nothing that legislatively prohibits the council from moving ahead at a percentage of 70%. In the past, what the council has done, because you'd be essentially creating a new special assessment district for this purpose, there'd be a public hearing. People would have an opportunity to come and speak on the the creation of this district, the special assessment district related to the sidewalks. And then based on, obviously, those comments from the public, the council can obviously move ahead or not move ahead. But the 75% is not a hard and fast percentage. The council can certainly seek to move ahead at 70%.
I'm going to open it. I know Mr. Palomini and I have been receiving emails from the person who was in charge of this. So, Mr. Palomini, would you like to add anything to this?
Yes, thank you. I would like to make a recommendation that we move forward with the information aspect, see what the costs are, and how we can, what kind of costs we're looking at for the residents, and get that information. And once we have that in play, hopefully we'll be able to get some more feedback from members of the community. In fact, I know I received a phone call today actually about this, and the individual was in favor of moving forward and thinks it's a great idea. They look at what the sidewalks onto camp and how they turned out. The final result was quite nice. And so I would suggest getting the information put together and moving forward in a stepwise capacity. But you are right. We both have received emails from the woman who is trying to push this initiative, and they are fairly close. So maybe more information on the costs would be beneficial.
Yeah, and absolutely correct. I mean, they are eager to move forward with the sidewalk program because they know that they had their petition in since last year. But I know we had to do our work, and I want to thank Mr. Colding for the verification process. It's a lot of verification there. So, Mayor McCarthy, is that something that we can ask Mr. Walling to work with us on the details on this project?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. We'll have this back in 2 weeks, just a follow-up back, so that way they know that we are discussing it and where we are in terms of getting the description and the program out to them. Thank you. Any other discussion before public safety? May I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
I'd like to call Health and Recreation Committee to order. There are 2 items on the agenda this evening. I'll call on Ms. Porterfield to follow up about the Grout Park usage item.
Thank you very much. So we did bring this out before, and I did have an opportunity to, what we had discussed at the last time this was on the agenda was to bring both entities forward who are currently using the Grout Park facility. And so that was the intent for this evening. Let me also say that we did have a meeting. I did meet with the 2 entities just to have some discussion in terms of where they were in terms of working together. Let me say that they are very much in favor of working together and making and having this become a dedicated cricket facility. In terms of the meeting, having them come tonight, unfortunately, as a result of personal things in my life, that meeting did not take place, and so we could not, it did not happen that they were going to be on tonight, and they're both fully aware of, that we're going to be meeting in the future. Let me also say that the state of New York, both the state and the assembly, have passed a bill that promotes cricket as being recognized by the tourism department. I believe it's or Health and Parks and Recreation for the state of New York. So one of the things that moving forward is at the next meeting, I would like for us to, we'll send the information for us to support that resolution. We should recognize that we have softball and we have soccer and we have all these things. And cricket is a very much a growing sport in the city of Schenectady, and having dedicated fields would be ideal. So we have discussed this as starting with a lease agreement. I can't tell you what the final outcome would be because obviously more discussion is needed. But the end result of both, as I said, both entities that came to the meeting is the agreement is that we'd like to see a dedicated cricket field, more than one actually is what was discussed at the meeting, if at all possible. So the next step would be to actually have those meetings within the next couple of weeks, and then have both Schenectady Softball Cricket and Capital District Cricket Association, I believe it is called, Mr. Both Ashok and Omkar to come on and have those discussions. So I'd like to bring this back in 2 weeks.
Okay, we'll bring it back in 2 weeks. And also, could you, if you want to pursue that resolution around the state legislation, maybe we could see that legislation or get the bill number?
I absolutely will send that.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments from any of my colleagues? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Porterfield. The next item is regarding just putting forth a CR for Flag Day, which is June 14th. So I was hoping that we could, you know, have a resolution that we could vote on the 14th.
I'll move that.
I'll move it.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, wait, I can't move it. I'm on the health and rec.
It's okay.
I take that back.
That's all right. So it was Mr. Parliamenting moved it and Mr.
Okay.
Rivera
Thank you.
Second.
second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Call to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to call to order City Development and Planning. We have 14 items on the agenda for this evening. And the first 6 will be in public session. And so at this point in time, I'd like to call on Ms. Diat to discuss agenda item number 1, adoption of the proposed 2021-22 HUD Annual Action Plan. The public hearing was held on the 10th of May.
Thanks, Ms. Porterfield. Good evening, everyone. This request is for the adoption of the proposed 2021 to 2022 Annual Action Plan as the final plan, which will result in the City of Schenectady allocating $3,533,172 in funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for CDBG, ESG, and home programs. So this is to basically adopt the plan that was introduced back in April after the public comment period and the public hearing that was held.
Are there any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the resolution requesting that the New York State legislation enact special legislation alienating Front Street Park. Ms. Diat.
Yeah, so this was something that the council passed, I believe, in the last committee meeting, but because it hadn't been formally introduced in the assembly, we just need to repass it to include the bill numbers. So this is basically a resolution that would authorize the alienating of Front Street Park in relation to the Stockade Flood Mitigation Project.
I'll move it.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms.
Ms.
Diat.
Porterfield, just before
Yes.
you proceed,
Yes,
this
sir.
we'll have the special city council meeting to pass this item this evening after this committee meeting.
Okay.
This
Thank
is
you
an
very much.
FYI.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Diat. Item number 3, to authorize the Commissioner of Finance to deposit the Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program CHIPS, Extreme Water Recovery, and Pave New York funding. Okay, Mr. Wallen. It's a lot.
Hey, good evening. So this is essentially the depositing of our annual Consolidated Local Highway CHIPS money. This year, the funding has been increased. I would say it's about approximately a 30% increase. We're usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.6 million. This year, we have been allocated up to 2.1 million. So this money is used for street improvements, lighting, anything really within the right of way that doesn't have to do with maintenance. So this money is for the roads. We can use it for curbing. We can use it for signage, traffic lights, things like that. So we get an allocation every year. It's 3 funds. They ask to use them from Pave New York to Winter Recovery and then back to CHIPS. And usually we use these funds with our annual paving program and to supplement some of our federal projects.
Okay. Are there any questions from council members? Entertain a motion?
I'll move it.
Second? I need a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And item number 4, Mr. Wallen, again, to authorize the Commissioner of Finance to deposit in the New York State Department of Transportation and Touring Wheel Program funding. Mr. Wallen.
This is new. This is a little unique. The New York State government this year allocated $100 million for the state for all municipalities which have touring routes within their limits. A touring route is not a touring route as you would think, like a bike trail. It is State Street and Erie Boulevard. So just a little education on that. If you are within a city limit, such as Albany or Schenectady, State Street or Central Avenue is owned and maintained by the cities. However, when you leave the city limits and you enter Niskayuna, Colony, Town of Colony, Village of Colony, Guilderland, those are all actually owned and maintained by the state. So I believe a group of legislators got together and said that we need to help make the municipalities whole, and they allocated this $100 million in the budget. It can be used on any road, but they request that you try to use it on touring routes. It's very similar to CHIPS, and it's all new money in the amount of $1.6 million.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wallen. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And Mr. Wallen, item number 5, call for public hearing for acceptance of ownership of Barrett Village Lane. Could you just talk a little bit about that, please?
Of course. So this is directly related to the Live in Schenectady project, which I tried to explain in my backup, which was essentially a conglomerate of groups that got together to do a project, which they named Live in Schenectady because the idea was to create housing that was owned by those who purchased it. So these aren't apartments. These are essentially brownstones, and so that it was to increase ownership and residency in the city. The site is the former Luigi's Restaurant on Barrett Street, and half of the buildings are up, and part of their application and their site plan was that they were to take an existing road that was there, that was a dead end, relocate it and make it a cul-de-sac so that they could have rear facing garages and access in the back, and that the residents would have that and the city would accept ownership of it. We would plow it. They would bring their trash out back. That's where their sanitary lines would go, as it made the development a little bit more the code from the street, as it kept a nice street line together. So during the process, the project's been going on for several years. I've been working with the consultant and their engineer. We've been going out and seeing inspections and working on the project. I did meet with our OGS department, both streets and sewer, and we walked and inspected the lines, and everything is up to code. So as per their approved site plan, that road is now ready to be turned over to the city for ownership. But to do that, that's requires a public hearing, as the city's taking that on.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, so are we calling for this public hearing on the 28th?
I believe so.
Okay.
So now it actually gets called, I believe, on the 21st, and then the
we have it
public
on the
hearing
28th.
is on the 28th, correct?
28th. Okay, so we'll call for the public hearing on the 21st, and the hearing would be on the 28th. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Mr. Wallen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item number 6 on the agenda is just a reminder that there'll be a public hearing on June 14th to amend chapter number 183 of the city code related to business certificates of use. That's just a placeholder. The remainder of the items on the agenda are all in public, or executive session. Is that correct, Mr. Calder?
That's correct.
Okay.
Make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're in executive session. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we have everyone here. So I would like to call the special city council meeting to order for Monday, June 7, 2020. And I will ask the clerk to complete the roll.
Ms. Porterfield?
Here.
Mr. Lewski-Walzunas?
Here.
Ms. Patrick?
Here.
Mr. Palomini,
Here.
Mr. Mutivaran.
Present.
Thank you.
We have one item for original consideration. If the clerk can please read item number 1.
Item number 1 for original consideration, a resolution requesting that the New York State Legislature enact special legislation alienating parkland located in the Stockade Historic District.
Discuss in committee without objection on consent. May I have approval for legislative consent agenda item?
I'll move it.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I thought we need to recess.
No,
We can adjourn?
No.
Okay. I'll
Yeah,
move to
yeah.
adjourn.
so moved.
It's a special meeting, so yeah. So this is completely out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move we adjourn.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good evening, everyone.
Good night.
See you
We are
later.
done.
See you later.